was finally completed in the spring of 1808. And that's when Nathaniel, his wife Sarah, their teenage daughters Alicia and Sarah, and approximately 18 enslaved people moved in to this beautiful federal-style townhouse. Now, this house is patterned after Robert Adams-style architecture. You would have visited homes like this in London. And as we walk through, you're going to see balance and symmetry. You're going to see the neoclassical influence. And Robert Adams liked to incorporate geometric shapes into his architecture. This house was a wonderful example. The 3 rooms on the front are rectangular in shape. 3 in the center are oval. The back has square rooms. And then we have a beautiful elliptical staircase to tie it all together. This is the public part of the house where business is conducted. You have business with Russells. You did not go any further than this room. You conducted your business and you left. But those beautiful glazed glass doors were closed. The purpose of those doors is to separate public space from the private home. So only friends, family, and invited guests are escorted beyond those doors by the enslaved butler. Those are the original doors, and they have their original glass. You'll notice that some of the panes look a little bit like they are frosted. Those are undergoing a natural process called crizzling, and that means there was a chemical imbalance in that particular batch of glass. So they have broken down over time to look the way that you see them today. Now, when we go beyond those doors in just a moment, you want to stand in the very center of the stair hall. Look straight up to the 3rd floor stair hall ceiling. You will see a medallion. Focus on that medallion. That will give you your best view of that staircase. A window has been cut out underneath. You can see the construction. It was built using mostly wooden pegs. But on your way in, you may want to take a quick peek in Mr. Ross's office. We have 1 Windsor chair in there. That is one of 2 pieces of furniture in the house that we know the Russells owned when they lived here. That Philadelphia made Windsor chair was analyzed to see what the reproductions you're sitting in should look like. So we think that chair lived its life in this room. All the other furniture that we see throughout the house today, the artwork, the china, the silver, the maps, they're not original to this house, but they are period pieces. They've tried to keep everything within the late 1700, early 1800 time frame. And I also want to mention the painted floor cloth to you. They like to use these in these public spaces. They were easier to clean than carpets. They painted canvas or sailcloth. Well, in the kitchen house, which we will go into at the end of the tour, we have found thousands of artifacts. One of them was a fragment of a painted floor cloth. When it was analyzed, it was Russell time period. They believe it was used in this room, damaged, moved to the kitchen. So after they analyzed that little tiny fragment, did additional research, they came up with this design to replicate what they think the Russells used in this room. This inner Greek key border was on that fragment. So that's what the design and the colors have been based on. Any questions so far? All right, these are the 3 flying, floating stairs. And this is the architectural feature for which this house is best known. Now, when Mr. and Mrs. Russell lived here, there was no apparent means of support. That staircase was not attached to the wall. It just floated past. And it's able to do that because it is a self-supporting staircase. The weight of the step above is supported by the step below. So these stairs are built in sections from landing to landing. The stairs are made of pine. The handrail is capped with bias cut pieces of Honduran mahogany. Now the medallion you saw as you looked up, Looks a little bit like plaster from down here. It's actually painted up there. It's what the French refer to as trompe-l'oeil. It tricks your eye. Look above my head at the top of the stair hall. You see the trompe-l'oeil crown molding. We have that on all 3 floors. There's a different design on each floor, and they found enough of the original to reproduce it. The gold is the original color of the stair hall. Our paint expert, Susan Bach, who works out of Williamsburg, removed about 22 layers of paint to determine this is the color the Russells used. Now, she also removed paint from the doors, and they discovered these are South Carolina pine doors. They have been painted to look like grained mahogany. So all of the interior doors, original to the house, restored to that 1808 faux mahogany finish. Mr. Russell is not saving money. Mr. Russell is being fashionable. He's emulating what is popular in Europe. Mahogany doors would have been less expensive than bringing in artisans to do the faux graining. These are works of art. Now, as you stand here and look at this oval room, you see doors on each side. Those doors are there only because you have a curved wall meeting a straight wall. So it leaves open, awkward space. The Russells put doors there and gave them some storage space. Closets are not part of architectural style because hangers had not been invented.
Okay.
But remember balance and symmetry. Skinny door, wide door. It's not balanced, is it?
No.
It's an error. Why it was made on this first floor, we do not know, but they corrected it on the second floor. So look at the doors when you walk across the stair hall on the second floor. But balance and symmetry-wise, the strange-looking door behind the staircase is actually perfect. It's centered under that beautiful Palladian window. It's across from the dining room door. Those doors led to the carriage lane and were only used by enslaved and tradespeople to bring goods into the house. The Russells themselves would not have used those doors. But that door surround is evidence that that staircase was not attached to the wall. Yes?
Why is there a light under the staircase?
To shine on this beautiful piece of furniture we have over here.
Oh.
Yeah. And we have one under there just to see, there's one shining there. Now, what do you see when you look under that staircase?
A trap door.
There you do, and see that light helps to show that up. That is the original trap door, and it leads to a cellar. We think they stored wine and ice in the cellar. It's convenient to the dining room. But this house is on one of the highest points of land on the peninsula, enabling Mr. Russell to have a cellar. Meeting Street out here does not flood when so many of our other streets do.
Nice.
Any other questions?
Are these mortgage coins?
Are they what?
Mortgage coins?
No. No, there would have been no need. He would not have had a mortgage. He's wealthy enough. He's paying for it. All right, please join me in the dining room.
So on the door frames.
All right, the main meal served in the dining room was dinner. Dinner's a 3-course meal served between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, if the Russells had invited guests, that meal might last 3 or 4 hours. And that entire meal is orchestrated by the butler. He's the most valued, the best trained, the most trusted of all of the enslaved. The butler was a wine sommelier. He is the one who selected the wine for each course of the meal. Mrs. Russell would have set the menu, and the food was prepared by a trained enslaved cook. There was a school in Charleston to train the cooks. That menu included European cuisine, African foods, herbs and spices, and even some Native American foods as well. The butler had the help of one or more footmen to serve the Russells and their guests. Now, in the early 1800s, they displayed their family portraits in the dining room. Behind you here is a portrait of Nathaniel Russell. This was painted by Edward Savage. Mr. Russell is 49. Now, that was a year before he married. He did not marry until he was 50. He did not move into this house until he was 70. He lived here until his death at the age of 82. His wife, Sarah Hopton, is 36 when they married. She's a very wealthy woman. She has inherited money and property from her father, also a merchant. Before they married, Sarah asked Nathaniel to sign a marriage contract. He agreed. She continued to control her money, and she continued to manage her property throughout their marriage. I think she was a little ahead of her time. Over the sideboard is a portrait of the older daughter, Alicia, when she was about 6. She was 19 when they moved into this house. She married a year later at the age of 20. She married extremely well, though. She would marry Arthur Middleton, namesake and nephew of Arthur Middleton of Middleton Plantation and one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Her younger sister, Sarah, 4 years later married this gentleman, the Right Reverend Theodore DeHoon. Now, he was rector of St. Michael's Church down here on the corner of Meeting and Broad. He's the second bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of South Carolina, but only lives 4 years after he and Sarah married. He dies from yellow fever. So Sarah returned to the Russell house a young widow with 3 children under the age of 4. She lived in this house, shared it with family until her death. She never remarried. Restoration of the dining room, they did find a piece of the original wallpaper hidden under a bell pull system that was added at a later time. When it was analyzed, this Verver blue is the original color. The narrow wallpaper border you see in here and the window treatment are very typical of the time period. Any questions about anything in the dining room? The octagonal piece, that is a wine cellarette. It's lined with lead. You put ice in there. All right, the back parlor is a very plain and very simple room, and the Russells would have actually spent a great deal of time in this room, but they did not entertain guests here, so they're not trying to impress anyone. Mrs. Russell ran the household from this room. She would have given the butler, the housekeeper, and cook instructions for the day. She probably wrote out her menus here, kept her books here. Breakfast might have been served in here about 8 or 9 in the morning if they didn't take it in their bedchamber. Their supper, about 8 or 9 at night, was served here. Supper's a simple meal. It consists of leftovers from that larger meal earlier in the day. But both of those meals were probably served on blue Canton Chinese export porcelain like you see on the table. That was the Russell's everyday dinnerware. And Mr. Russell's ships went all over the world, and he had one ship named the Russell that made a round-trip voyage from Charleston to China. When it returned, it had barrels of this on board. We have found the ship manifest. We have found numerous shards of that in archaeological digs here on the property. Now, the foundation had to restore the square configuration to this room by putting in a false wall. When the Russells lived here, the house would have ended there with windows. Those windows looked out over a work service area. Livestock pens, vegetable garden, herb garden, even a small fruit orchard. So that's probably another reason for not entertaining here. Also in 1808, the main house and the kitchen house were not connected. So all of the food cooked in the kitchen had to be brought across an open space into the main house. And it was brought into that small room behind us, which is called the butler's pantry. That's where they would have made their final preparations on the food before it was served. Now in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to follow me through the butler's pantry. We will go up some stairs built in the 1950s by Historic Charleston Foundation. But the Russells had a back staircase. It was narrow, it was tightly wound, it had no handrail. It went all the way from the first floor of the butler's pantry to the attic. That is the staircase the enslaved used as they went about their daily chores. Only the butler would have used that grand staircase to escort the guest to the second floor. Any questions before we go upstairs? All right, if you'll follow me up to the second floor, please.
Who played the harp? You saw? Who played the harp? Shalom. Shalom. David playing the harp for Saul.
Your eyes will be drawn up to the second floor. The windows are taller. There are arches over those windows. You have the balconies with the original ironwork. So it's almost like the architectural style of the house tells you my most important rooms are on the second floor. And they were. This is the entertainment floor. Now the Russells are following the British tradition, but it was practical. Got them away from the dirt, the smell, the noise of street blood. You could get about a breeze on the second floor, so it was somewhat cooler as well. Now we are in the withdrawing room, a multifunctional room, and the Russells used it for what they considered their less formal, entertaining, more intimate family-friendly occasions. Carpeting was on the floor, imported, wallpaper. It's the only room in the house we have not been able to determine the original color of the walls. Look up. You see this beautifully restored neoclassical cornice. When they removed paint from that cornice and discovered 22-karat gold gilding, they were surprised. Thought maybe it had been added after the Russells lived here. But they found a letter written by the oldest grandson, Nathaniel Russell Middleton. And in that letter, he talked about coming back to visit in the house after it was sold and the refurbishing of the gold gilding. He remembered as a child. So that placed it in the Russell time frame. Tea ceremony in Charleston, just as in England, very important social occasion. Mrs. Russell entertained guests for formal tea in this room. And they might have sat at the table similar to the one we have. One of the enslaved were brought an urn filled with hot water from the kitchen house up the back staircase to this room. Teas prepared, Mrs. Russell's guest served. Now a group of ladies who probably had tea in this room with Mrs. Russell was the Ladies Benevolent Society. And that was a charitable organization started by Mrs. Russell and her sister to help the poor and the sick in Charleston. Both daughters were active in that group, and that group does still exist today. Now downstairs, I told you she had a marriage contract. She took her forward thinking into the Ladies Benevolent Society as well. They wrote into their bylaws their treasurer had to be a single lady. They did not want the husbands to have any control or say over their funds. Those funds were kept in this rectangular box. That is their original charity box. Behind you is a second portrait of Mr. Russell, painted by John Wesley Jarvis. We think Mr. Russell is in his 70s. That is the case. He was living in this house when that portrait was painted. Now he was benevolent as well. He started the New England Society to help widows and orphans of men who were lost at sea. That group still exists today, and the executive boards of both groups meet annually in the Russell House to carry on their tradition. Now I told you there were two pieces of furniture in the house that the Russells owned. The second piece is the chair sitting on the table here. It's sitting on the table because we're in the process of restoring it. We acquired it about 4 or 5 years ago from some descendants of the Russells. And it had been in the family for 2 centuries. When we acquired it, it was black. Well, they sent it to Williamsburg for analysis and discovered that was not the original color. So they are restoring it now to the way it would have looked in 1800. Now, I told you the cornice had 22-karat gold gilding. The gold gilding you see on that chair is 24-karat gold gilding. The conservator said the Russells probably had a set of 6 of those chairs.
Chairs. Wow.
Any questions about the withdrawal? All right, if we go through those doors, I'll be going in where the butler or one of the footmen served them tea. They socialized, waited for their companions to rejoin them. And there's probably musical entertainment sometime during the evening. In those days, every young lady is expected to play a musical instrument. Mrs. Russell played the harp. The older daughter, Alicia, was very talented on the pianoforte. We have some of her music, very difficult to play. Some of the enslaved were classically trained musicians, so music was an important part of their social events. Now, because the drawing room is for the most formal entertaining, this room is lavishly and expensively decorated. They said when the Russells moved in 1808, finest drawing room in Charleston, if not on the entire East Coast. Carpeting on the floor. This is a reproduction of a Brussels wool carpet in a floral and swag design taken from the early 1800s. The wallpaper is the original color. Window surrounds have been painted their original colors. Look at the prints down near the windows over by the fireplace. Those are blocks of wood, though painted to look like the semi-precious stone blue iris. Look up. You see the original plaster cornice. That is a Gothic design taken from the London Pattern Book. And when I first started working here, it was painted solid gray. It was beautiful. Restoration has made it magnificent. It brings out all of the detail. And this is the only room in the house that had a chandelier. Chandeliers are expensive decorative items. They only use them in their most important rooms. The candles were expensive and used sparingly. Mirror panels behind you are designed to reflect the candle light in the natural light. If you look at about the third row down on these mirror panels, you'll see that chandelier reflected 3 times. So they're designed to make it appear you're burning 3 times the number of candles that are actually in use. And if you stand in the right place, you can see 3 Yes. The harp is about early 1800s, made in France. Pianoforte, I think, is also early 1800s, made in the US. All right. Do you want to understand why it was the finest drawing room in Charleston?
Curved doors.
Any questions?
Curved mirrors.
All right. Take contemporary of the Russells, sister of Edward Rutledge, the youngest signer of the Declaration of Independence. Her brother John signed the U.S. Constitution, and that is an original George Romney painting. It was commissioned while she was in England. So take a closer look and enjoy me in the kitchen.
What's her name again?
Mary Rutledge Smith.
Mary Rutledge Smith.
We are in the best bed chamber, the most decorative bed chamber in the house. Guests would have had access to this room. Bed chambers were not as private as our bedrooms are today. This was Mr. and Mrs. Russell's. 3 additional bed chambers were on the 3rd floor for family and guests. Window treatments, bed hangings you see in here are patterned after a photograph that was found of Mr. and Mrs. Russell's great-granddaughter's bedroom in her home in Bristol, Rhode Island. When they found the photograph, they thought maybe she was using what had been in her great-grandparents' home in Charleston because she was the great-grandchild who inherited most of their possessions. But there was a second reason. These are made from Dimity cotton. Dimity cotton was the first mass-produced textile in the United States following the American Revolution. You're using this in your home, you're being patriotic, you're not importing textiles from Europe. That coincided with the time frame Sarah and Nathaniel Russell lived in Charleston. The walls in this room are painted their original color, and they are painted with the same type of paint that the Russells used. This is a distemper paint made from chalk, water, and animal hide glue. They ground 2 shades of French ochre pigment for the color, applied it to the walls using the same techniques used in the early 1800s. They used a horsehair brush, 1 coat of paint, all the strokes go in the same direction, none of them overlap. And we were wondering why only 1 coat of paint. What we've discovered is the striations in this paint reflect light, especially candlelight. Stair Hall probably looked like this in 1808. Today it's painted with latex paint, like we use. So you have your chemically produced pigment versus your natural pigments. The narrow wallpaper border in here is a reproduction of the wallpaper border used in this room. We know it was used in this room. We had the help of a little preservationist. We found a rat's nest in the window pocket on the other side of the bed. And in the rat's nest was a piece of wallpaper about the size of my thumbnail. But that was large enough for Susan Bach to determine its Russell time period, the color, and the Greek key design. But how do we know the wallpaper came from this room? Rats do not take things more than 75 or 100 feet from their nest. Why was it still there hundreds of years later? Rat urine is a preservative. So we have found pieces of paper and cloth in rat's nest that normally would have deteriorated over time. So thanks to the little rodent, improvement in paint analysis technology, discovery of a photograph, we can show you what we think this bedchamber looked like when Sarah and Nathaniel Russell lived here. Any questions about the bedchamber? All right, we are going to walk.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Question. Right there, is that?
Indoor plumbing.
that's
That's
your
the
indoor
toilet?
plumbing, yes.
Okay.
Okay, when we walked up these stairs, we walked through the dressing room that was adjacent to the bedchamber. And the door was on this side of the fireplace. Now that's a place for bathing, for storage, and chamber pots. But if you're wealthy enough, you might own a necessary chair. Now this necessary chair was made in Philadelphia between 1800 and 1810. And they were right in your bedchamber. If your chamber pot was close by, you put the cushion down, you had a comfortable, easy chair. And they were always upholstered with slip covers for easy laundry.
Okay.
Now, as I was saying, we're going to go into this hyphen. And in 1808, this was a window. So these two windows overlook that work service area. The hyphen where the ticket office is on the first floor was added in the 1820s. What we're walking through was added in the 1840s when Sarah Russell DeHone was living here. So if you'll walk through, glance as you go, and we're going to go down some stairs on the other side of the elevator, and I want to take you into the kitchen house.
All right. So that looks crazy.
All right, the kitchen house is the area of focus for the foundation right now. Excuse me. They started working in here in 2017, removing building materials that had been added over time. Discovered 85% of the original building materials had been preserved. You're looking at a lot of that right now. But if we were to go back to 1808, it was not one large room. It was divided into kitchen and laundry room. Walls separated those two rooms. There were no windows on that exterior wall. The enslaved were not encouraged to look outside the property, only into the property. Those windows overlooked that work service area. Now, when they entered the building by way of the door here, they actually entered a narrow hallway. And in that hallway was a staircase that led to the second floor. 2 large rooms, 1 small room. We think 12 of the approximately 18 enslaved people on the property lived on the second floor of this building. There was also a 2-story brick carriage house attached to the back of the kitchen house. That had quarters for the enslaved on the second floor of it as well. But the 1886 earthquake damaged the carriage house. It had to be torn down. We have some brick walls left of it today. Now, architecturally in 1808, this is probably one of the finest kitchen houses in all of Charleston. We have found evidence of faux grain doors, chair railing, and bright colored paint in the enslaved quarters. But to live and work in this building was not pleasant at all. Stuffy in here right now. Imagine fires going 24/7, 365 days a year in these 2 fireplaces. No cross ventilation. and they're dealing with heat, odor, and smoke. Or remember the rat's nest in this house? They used pest control in the main house, not in the kitchen house. They said the building was infested. They probably crawled across their feet as they cooked, crawled across them as they slept at night. I cannot imagine it. However, as you know, those rats are good preservationists. Of those thousands of artifacts found in this building and underneath it, many of them were in the rat's nest. We also sent mummified rats to a lab at the University of Pennsylvania. We wanted to know what they were eating, because whatever they were eating was being cooked in this kitchen. Found evidence of grains of rice, peanut shells, 2 types of grape seeds. But the most interesting thing found was the seed of a bitterroot melon. Anyone know what the bitterroot melon is? I didn't. It's a plant native to Africa. It was taken to Asia. It was domesticated. Made its way back to Africa. Those seeds made their way across the Atlantic. It's being grown in South Carolina. It's being cooked in this kitchen. So we're getting valuable information from the rats. We have done 3 archaeological digs in the cellar underneath this kitchen house. Originally, the cellar ran the entire length of the building and was about 5 or 6 feet deep. But over time, it begins to fill in with dirt. They begin to have water intrusion. They need to level it out. So what do they decide to do? Use their trash to level it out. Anything they're throwing away. Broken china, pottery, things fall through the floorboards. Trash is now our treasure. We have a few treasures found in the last archaeological dig in this case, and there are 2 of them that I really want to point out to you. You're welcome to walk up closer so you can see. One is this graphite pencil at the back. That was found on the laundry room side. The archaeologists said they found about 15 of those along a wall. The enslaved laundress is probably using that graphite pencil to keep track of the laundry she's doing on a slate on laundry day. Carnelian bead was found under the kitchen. Carnelian is a stone native to India, traded in West Africa. The archaeologists said that bead was cut in Africa. That means it made its way across the Atlantic on a slave ship. It's being worn by an enslaved person working in this kitchen. Maybe it was part of a necklace or belt. It falls off, it falls through the floorboards. Cannot imagine how devastated the person was to lose that treasure. The archaeologist said 6 carnelian beads have been found in the Charleston area. This is the only one that can be traced back to Africa. He almost cried when he found it. He was so excited about it. But we're going to continue to study and analyze all of these thousands of artifacts that we've found. We're learning more about the Russells, but we're learning more about the enslaved people as well. Our goal is to tell the story of the enslaved in the same manner we tell the story of the Russell family. The Russells lived the lifestyle they were living in that main house because of the work done in this building by the enslaved and elsewhere on the property. And the Russells lived on this property almost 50 years. It's after the death of Sarah Russell DeHone in 1857. The house is sold to Governor Robert Alston and his family. The Alstons are living here during the Civil War. They have to evacuate as the Union Army bombards the city. After the war, Governor Alston has died. His wife and daughters need to earn a living. They had been rice planters. Without slavery, that's no longer possible. So this house was repaired. Mrs. Alston and one of her daughters opened it as a boarding school for young ladies. 1870, they needed to sell the Alston estate for tax purposes. The house is sold at auction to the Sisters of Charity of Our Lady of Mercy. The nuns will use this house as a mother house and a girls' day school for 38 years. They sold it to the Mullally family in 1908. It became a private residence again. Mullally's made a number of architectural changes, sold it to the Pelzers, who sold it to Historic Charleston Foundation in 1955. And about a year later, they opened it as a house museum in their first headquarters.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for getting off your ship and coming to see us today.
Thank you.
Question.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I've certainly enjoyed showing you the house, and I hope you have smooth sailing getting home.
Question.
Yes,
You said 12 of the Hebrew slaves lived in here?
the enslaved lived
Where-
on the second floor,
Okay, where'd the other 6 live?
on the second floor of the carriage house.
Okay.
Yeah, more than likely, we're pretty sure the butler, the housekeeper, the cook, the laundress, those in the higher echelon of the enslaved definitely would have lived in this house. Probably the butler may have had that little room that might have been his. And then your carriage driver, the ones who took care of the livestock, the gardens and all probably lived. And it would probably probably all the women would have been in this building, and men, I think.
And that's during the earthquake. It
The
collapsed.
1886 earthquake damaged it, had to be torn down. But the wall that you see looking through there, right there,
Yeah.
that was part of that carriage house.
See?
Anything else? Well, thank you. I don't know where thank you very much. Probably go out the store, and I will let them know that you are out.
Look at the.
We're
That's where our ancestors were.
writing grants to get the money. So stay tuned.
Hold on a minute.
The next trip.
It's real stuffy back here, y'all. They said we used to make bricks too. So all these bricks, the ancestors made.
I think they used to play. I think the Hebrew slaves used to play Jenga.
Used to play Jenga with the way they're stacked up.
Yeah.
Probably the originator of it. Look at that. Dang. So this was about $80,000 back in 1808.